Howdy everybody, and welcome back to our Chip and Dale tutorial. So we have, at this point, we have reached the end of the hardest part of this tutorial. Putting in all those throw and hurt and hiding and jumping and carrying states were probably the hardest part of this entire thing. Setting it up so that our player character could move and jump around the game as easily as possible. But from now on, it's going to get a little bit easier. Let's go over to the game here. And, yeah. We got those. Can't move through them. That's good. But remember, we earlier set up our character so that if we ever hit a cactus, we would take some damage. But we currently aren't doing anything with that damage. So today we are going to be talking about our damage, our GUI, and adding in a death state for the player character. So let's get cracking. So as you remember, previously we had our damage section that we created. If we detect that we are on top of a spine, so this entire region here, then make our character jump around because he's been hurt and he gets knocked back, and turn on iframes and set our iframe timer so that then it turns back to normal after a couple of frames, and make our player character be in the hurt state. And our health goes down. But what happens when we hit 0? Well, let's add an event and find out. Well, first things first, got to actually find the code for it. Yeah, there we go. Death state is other user event 8. Alright, so this is going to be another one of those events that basically relies on an animation timer to do its stuff. So we're going to start off, there's a bit of a... So when we die, our character jumps into the air and he looks like he's hurt. So this is kind of where you're going to be using the hurt state sprites, I believe. So if we come over here, yeah, death would use the hurt sprites. So we start off with a bit of a timer. So animation underscore timer underscore is less than 8. So what we do is frame by frame, our character moves upwards each frame at this point in our death state. And if pickup underscore does not equal no one, so if we're carrying something, we need to drop the item if it is a droppable item, such as the steel box or the ball, which we will add later on. So we basically just copy the code from the throwing state. If pickup name is object steel box or object ball, then you turn it into a throwable and throw it. Or in another case, just drop it because it's going from our head onto the ground. Well, it's going up. It jumps up and then it falls back to the ground. So we're throwing upwards. Else, we just toss the item directly into the air like this, except we don't actually bother... well, we don't even bother making a new object to drop onto the ground. We just throw the pickup object into the air, and it'll disappear when we restart the room. So there's no need to bother destroying it or anything. It'll just take care of itself. Though I guess, if I remember correctly, the boxes and stuff should destroy themselves anyways once they get outside of the room. So... But that's the boxes, not the pickup object. The pickup object doesn't actually have any of that code in it. So Anyways, so yeah, when we are under 8 frames, we go Y minus minus, so that means we rise into the air 1 pixel at a time, while our object that we throw goes into the air. Else, Y plus equal 6. So once we're over 8, our Y speed, we start dropping by 6 every single frame. So this drops us outside of the room at that point. Alright, so this will be the animation if we're on a screen during death. A sound, so we want to play a little death sound. If animation underscore timer underscore is equal to 16, then if not audio underscore is underscore playing sound underscore death, because there are a couple different ways you can die, and some of them play the sound sooner than the other, so we don't want to be playing the death sound too early if it already is. We don't want to be playing the death sound again if we've already started playing it once. Alright, next up, then we need to go var underscore view underscore y equals camera underscore get underscore view underscore y, view underscore camera 0, not 9, 0. And var underscore y underscore max is equal to underscore view underscore y plus camera underscore get underscore view underscore height, view underscore camera 0. Alright, so what are these variables for? They're for our next step in this death event. So if our y is greater than underscore y underscore max, then if the animation underscore timer underscore is greater than 16, do some stuff. So what kind of stuff are we going to do at this point? So this is basically saying if we have fallen off of the screen, so this would be the bottom of the screen here, and the animation timer is over 16, so no matter how long it takes for us to die, it waits 16 frames before it starts respawning us. So if we get hit by an enemy or we fall off the bottom of the screen, either way. And even if we're still on the screen while we're falling down at this point, we would still start respawning us, because it would just do a fade out and then a fade back in as a, so should be just fine. So first, if object underscore stats dot p1 underscore lives underscore is greater than or equal to 0, then if, well, let's just do some copy paste here. If the audio isn't played for your sound death, so this die, and object transitions.mode is equal to transition mode off, this is so we don't end up calling this 2 times, then our HP is equal to 3, so reset our HP and do a fade transition into a room reset. Yeah, good. And then else if not global.multiplayer mode. So this is specifically so that if we don't have 2 players, because if there's 2 players and one of the player dies, the other player would still keep on playing. So else if not multiplayer mode and our sound is playing. Okay, yeah. So if our lives are at 0, are less than 0 at this point, so if we've used up all of our lives, then we reset our HP again. That'll be used for later, but we go to the death room in the meantime. Oops, forgot a parentheses there. And let's go check out the death room. So this should be what you have if you bother downloading the project file. And there's nothing else really in here, just a background. Let me pull up the death room over my other one. And the death room in the other one, okay, there we go. I had a bunch of box objects I had placed around. I don't know if they're actually needed. We also had a object continue, which we were going to use to choose to continue or not. Let's make that real quick. Put it into game objects. Add a create event. Audio underscore play underscore sound. Music underscore game underscore over. 1 false. Selection underscore is equal to 0. Tick underscore is equal to no one. And timer underscore is equal to 0. This is basically a copy paste of the code from our main menu object. So let's do a copy paste here real quick and do a step event. Don't allow selecting until the song is over. So we have to wait until then. If our continues are at 0, then force a game restart. If our object input at start pressed, then we'll select something, depending on what our selection value currently is. But first, let's select play mode. If not, audio underscore is playing, sound, select character, and text scroll end. For whatever reason, it's not playing. Or audio underscore track position of tick is greater than 0.4. It's basically just the tick sound, so that limits us from being able to scroll back and forth instantaneously. If object underscore input dot down pressed, then wrap our selection between 0 and 1. If up pressed, minus minus, wrap between 0 and 1, and play a tick sound. And come back to here. If start pressed, then if our selection is 1, else if continues is greater than, if our selection is 1, we force a restart. Else if our continues are greater than 0, then we can call a room go to, and it will go to our object stats. And we had that last room variable in here that I created a long time ago. Last zone, last room. And this was for determining where you start when you die, and for determining restart on a continue. So those will be used there. And I think that's everything to do on that. Well, actually, we need to draw. Because we have to draw the text onto the screen. If audio is playing music underscore game over, then draw game over. Else draw our continue and end options and our selection caret and its position. So that's fairly easy. Come back over to our room death, and if you forgot to name your object like I did, make sure you name it object underscore continue. Come back to room death and drop your object continue into the room. Doesn't matter where. Oops. Alright, so now that that's taken care of, we can come back here to our object player, and yes, we can transition to the death room now properly. If global.multiplayer is active, though, destroy our player object once he falls off the screen. And And that would, of course, need some additional editing if you're adding in some code for the multiplayer. There's also else if object underscore stats dot p1 underscore lives underscore greater than 0 and a global multiplayer mode. And just for now I have only exit in there, but normally you put in the balloon state, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. I didn't bother programming it either because I didn't really go into multiplayer mode very much. So animation underscore timer underscore plus plus. There we go. And yeah, that should be all. We don't have to bother resetting this back to 0 because the player is recreated whenever you die, so it doesn't matter. So that would be a death state possibility. So when our player hits the cactus, eventually he'll die. Let's check it out. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh wait, I should probably actually tell it to go into the death state at some point, shouldn't I? Let's see, where do I do that? Let's see, it should be in the step event, check for death. There we go. Let's come back to our step event. Yeah, we're already there already. We're doing check for pickups, pound region death, pound end region. There we go. Check for death. So again, get our view camera, B-box bottom, that kind of stuff. This will be for checking to see if we've fallen off the bottom of the screen. If object stats.player HP is less than or equal to 0, or B-box is true. So if we've fallen outside of the screen, then and our player state is not equal to death. So if we had a B-box death, if we fell off the screen, then instantly teleport us to somewhere 50 pixels down under the screen and play the death play the death sound, and then do the death animations for the death state. Otherwise, just set us into the death state and reduce our lives by 1. Before we go any further, actually, I'm going to make it easier for us to actually see what our player's health is by creating the GUI object. This should be fairly easy. All it does is draw GUI. And for it, we draw this. Player 1 HP and player 2 HP. That's all we need to draw. Technically, these use a different font from the main font, but I don't want to create a second font. Yeah, but alright. So we just set our draw color to black and determine what character initial should be drawn to the screen. And draw text, character initial, set our color back to white, and draw text, character initial. This is so we can have our white text with a black background, and then draw our heart to the screen. Alright, and I didn't put it into the game. You know, I should probably actually do that. Let's see real quick. Yeah, it's just dropped right into the room. So if we go into our zone 1, gotta do is drop in our GUI object. I'll put it over here to the side where it's slightly easy to find. And go. There we go. So now we can actually see our character's health. And there we go. It took some damage. Took some damage. And death. There we go. Perfect. Now you may be wondering why the music doesn't restart or anything. And the reason why is because in the game, the music doesn't restart when you reset the room either. So that's why I set it up that way. Alright, I think that's everything for this lesson, and I hope that you enjoyed programming this. I had fun teaching. So if you have any questions, don't forget to leave a comment, maybe leave a like, that'd be great. So beyond that, good luck with your programming.